Okay, I'm going to get started this morning by just welcoming all of you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung Yu. Nice to see all of you this morning. Welcome to everyone online who's joining us as well. Today is our Pali Canon in English study group, and I'll explain to you guys what that is after we do our meditation, because we start with a meditation practice. So if you guys would like to actually meditate along with us, then what I'm going to be doing is easing into the meditation with some chanting, which you guys are welcome to join along in. We have the chants over there on the cabinet on the laminated sheet. You're welcome to get one if you'd like, and you'll see the chanting that I'm doing, and you're welcome to join along. And for those of you guys online, you can access this through going to buddhadailywisdom.com and click on free books, and down towards the bottom you'll see the actual chanting sheet. When we're doing these chants, this is to help ease the mind into meditation in order to get more benefit out of the meditation itself. There aren't any rites or rituals or ceremonies or worship in the teachings of the Buddha. There aren't any prayers or anything like this. If you've been exposed to those kinds of things and people have shared them as saying they are part of the teachings of the Buddha, you can see through his original teachings that he never taught those kinds of things. The way that they used chanting during his lifetime is as a way to commit the teachings to memory, that everything he taught was oral. They didn't have the technology to write things down. So every 2 weeks they would come together and they would recite his teachings word for word for word. And this was what allowed them to retain the teachings and memorize them in their mind. So today we don't need to chant in order to memorize the teachings. So we have books and audiobooks, we have podcasts and videos and all these kinds of things. So we don't need to chant in order to remember the teachings, but you can see from the origins of chanting that there isn't anything mystical or magical with these chants. It's not a rite or ritual or ceremony or worship. It's not prayer or anything like that. It's to help ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So I'm going to ease us into meditation in that way. If you get one of these chanting sheets, you're going to see the Pali language and you're going to see the English translations on there as well. So you'll see what we're actually chanting in English. And if you read those English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of this, I don't even think the Buddha actually created these chants, because an individual who's gotten to enlightenment, which a Buddha has gotten to enlightenment, they wouldn't have ego and arrogance. They wouldn't be putting themselves above other people and looking down on people. So the Buddha wouldn't have walked around and saying, here, chant these chants for me out of respect for me. But if you learn from a teacher of how to move from the anger and sadness and frustration and all these other discontent feelings to the peace and the joy that is the enlightened mental state. It's a peaceful mental state. It's a calm mental state. The mind is there permanently. And this teacher helped you to accomplish that. You'd have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for this individual too, because the Buddha didn't want anything from his students. He didn't expect anything from his students. He just helped them to be able to get to this enlightened mental state. So I suspect that these chants were actually created by his students, either during his life or after his death. So if you'd like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. After the chanting, I'm going to come in with some guidance to be able to guide you in the meditation. You'll hear me kind of talking and instructing you as we're actually meditating. But then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet. We're just all meditating together. I'm sure you're going to hear an occasional car or maybe a bird chirping or a dog barking, because you can't be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. You live in an impermanent world. And as long as your mind is craving permanence, when you experience impermanence, you'll be discontent. You'll be frustrated or angry or irritated or annoyed. So if you don't have a craving for permanent silence, when you hear a dog barking or a bird chirping, you can be completely peaceful. But if you have a craving for permanent silence, when you experience impermanence, you'll cause your own mind to be frustrated or annoyed. It's not other people who's causing you to be frustrated or annoyed or any of these other discontent feelings. It's actually being caused by your own mind. And that's why you can actually eliminate this by getting to enlightenment through training of your mind. So there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're just all meditating together, everyone here and anyone who's joining us at home. Then we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And that's where I'll start today's class, helping you guys to understand what is the Pali Canon in English study group. And then we'll actually study the original words of the Buddha. In terms of your body positioning for meditation, the Buddha taught 4 positions: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these at different times in your journey to enlightenment, and you would employ them at different times based on your specific needs. But oftentimes people are learning in the seated position, so I'm going to give you a little bit of guidance on the seated position just to help you out with your meditation today. Oftentimes people are either sitting on the floor, in a chair. If you're at home, you might be on a bench or a sofa or in a wheelchair or something like this. You can sit however you're comfortable. The guidance that I'm going to provide you here is just to kind of help you find some different options that you might consider. So if you're on the floor, you might think about putting some cushions under your rear. This kind of helps to soften your seat a bit. And then if you have your legs crossed, you would like to just bring them together lightly, where if they were real tight, it would impede the circulation and it would cause pain in your lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat because this helps to get the hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, and allows the circulation to flow. So that might be an option that you consider as well. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. And if this is comfortable for you, you could use it. But this practice isn't about everyone doing it exactly the same way. Different people are going to find different things to be comfortable. So you need to find what's comfortable for you. And here's some other options. Some people like to put their palms on the thighs or the knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. You can place your hands and arms wherever you like. And it's the same thing for anybody who might be sitting in a chair or a sofa or a bench or a wheelchair or something like this. You can sit however you're comfortable. Some options to consider is some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly crossed at the ankles, and then place your hands and arms wherever you like. The upper body should be erect. By having the sternum up and the shoulders back, it keeps the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be in the middle with the sternum up and the shoulders back, and this will keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, as well as make it easier for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to ease us into meditation with chanting, which you guys are welcome to join along in, and then I'm going to come back in with some guidance. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavanang Apivateyami Savakato Bhagavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rogavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma sati sata tava manusanam Oto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled. Just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาโหตังมหาเกวันหังอภิวาเตมิ สวากขาโตมหาเขวัตตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเขวัตโตสาวกสังโฆ สังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังโอโตภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you guys here at the temple. Welcome to everyone online who's joining us as well. As I mentioned, today is our Pali Canon and English study group. What we do here at this temple is we help students to make their way to enlightenment. What enlightenment is it's a mental state that you can experience in this life, that through training of your mind, you'll get to a point where you never again experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings in others are completely eliminated from the enlightened mind. You won't even experience the slightest displeasure any longer. You'll notice that your mind's focused, concentrated, have clarity of mind and deep memory. Your personal and professional relationships will really be blossoming because you're not being bitter and harsh and hostile in your relationships any longer. You'll get to the point where you're not even in a bad mood. Right now, you probably experience these kinds of things because the mind is untrained. It's lacking training. And as you train and discipline your mind, you'll get to the point where the mind can just always be peaceful. It can always be joyful. And that comes through training of the mind. It's not through rites and rituals and ceremonies and worship. It's not through prayer that these things happen. You're not believing the teachings of the Buddha. There are no beliefs in his teachings. Instead, you're learning, examining, and investigating his teachings. You're reflecting on them to independently verify whether they're true or false, and then you're practicing his teachings by integrating them into your day-to-day life in order to train your mind. And the program that a lot of people will start out in is called our group learning program. And what we do is we have this book series of 13 books. And in our group learning program, each Sunday and Wednesday, we get together and we help students to be able to understand the foundational teachings that it takes to be able to move to this enlightened mental state. Each Sunday, we go chapter by chapter in this book over a 7-month period. And you can attend here, you can attend online. The classes are also recorded, so even if you can't attend live, you can still learn. And this week, tomorrow, I'm going to be in chapter 14, which is titled Cultivating Healthy Mental States, Loving Kindness, Compassion, Sympathetic joy, and equanimity. These are 4 healthy mental states that you need in order to train your mind to be able to move to this enlightened mental state. You can actually get this book at no cost. You can download it for free. You can take it and go print it if you like. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can get it access to Amazon if you're country has access to Amazon. So this is the place where students oftentimes will start, either in this program or one of our foundational courses, like a 5-day course that we teach every month, which is called Foundation in the Path to Enlightenment. You can attend any of these foundational programs, and it's going to help you to build a really nice, solid foundation in making your way to enlightenment. And then we have other various courses, retreats, and programs that are going to help you to continue to grow and develop on the path to enlightenment. And this particular program, the Pali Canon and English Study Group, is one of those kinds of programs. All the other books, volumes 2 through 13, that's what we focus on in this program, where each Saturday I get together at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. with students, either here at the temple or through the live stream. And what we do is we gradually make our way over a year and a half through volumes 2 through 13. We happen to be in this particular book now. It's volume 7. It's titled Breathing Mindfulness Meditation. These are the original words of the Buddha that we study in this Pali Canon and English Study Group, because that's how you actually make your way to enlightenment, is you learn what it was that the Buddha did in order to make his way to enlightenment. And then whatever he did, you don't believe it. You learn it, examine it, and investigate it. You reflect on it to independently verify whether it's true or false, and then you practice it. And this is what trains your mind, uprooting certain pollutions that the Buddha discovered in your mind. And when you uproot these pollutions, that's what's going to produce the enlightened mental state. So there's more than just meditation that you need to do in order to get to enlightenment. Sometimes people think the Buddha sat under a tree, he meditated, and instantly got to enlightenment. But this isn't actually true. You need to actually train your mind through gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. If you read the teachings of the Buddha, he shares that it's gradual training that led to his enlightenment. It wasn't sudden or all of a sudden. It was gradual training over a 6-year period. So the way that we do this particular program is I invite students here at the temple, or anyone who's joining us in Zoom, to be able to read a chapter from this book. And this particular chapter, you can see it's about maybe 3/4 of a page. These are the original words of the Buddha. This is a reference that takes you back to the original source teachings. It's called the Pali Canon. There's 45 volumes of books that are about this thick, which are the original teachings. And then after that, you've got words from me of teaching you how to integrate this into your day-to-day life. So if students would like to read this, you can volunteer to do this. And as you read this, then everybody will be able to learn and be able to study it. And then I'll share some teachings on it for like 5 or 10 minutes, and then I'll open up to any questions that you guys have. If you guys would like to volunteer to read this here at the temple, we have microphones in front of the camera in the white bowl. All you need to do is come get a microphone, press the gray button. You're going to see the lights come on. You can hold this up to your chin. We'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online. If you were speaking here without a microphone, they wouldn't be able to hear you online. So it's helpful if you use the microphones here. And then you can just keep it with you, because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have something they would like to say, and you can just share the microphone. And then when you're not using it, you can just turn it off so we don't get feedback from the speakers. And for those of you guys in Zoom, if you would like to volunteer to read, all you need to do is electronically raise your hand. I'll be able to see that, and then you can just unmute your microphone, and we'll be able to hear you here, and they'll be able to hear you online. And then when we get to the questions, the same thing is you guys can ask questions through the microphones. People online, you can ask questions through putting that through Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comments section. And then those of you guys in Zoom, you can also electronically raise your hand and ask any questions that way. So is there anybody who would like to read this first chapter? Yes, sir. Looks like Drew's going to read. Battery's dead? Yeah, you can just set that there. Someone needs to change the batteries. Yeah, I didn't see. Oh yeah, I didn't see anybody changing batteries. Yeah, probably have to open them up and put some batteries in. Yeah. While Drew's addressing the microphone, is there anyone in Zoom that would like to volunteer to read? Okay, don't see anyone in Zoom. I think you only put one battery. Did you only put one battery? Oh, okay. Might have them backwards. There you go. Thank you, Rachel.
Monks, concentration by mindfulness of breathing mindfulness meditation, when developed and cultivated, leads to the destruction of the taints, fetters. And how, monks, is concentration by mindfulness of breathing mindfulness meditation developed and cultivated so that it leads to the destruction of the taints? Here, monks, a monk having gone to the forest, to the foot of the tree, or to an empty hut, sits down, having folded his legs crosswise, straightened his body, and set up mindfulness in front of him, just mindful he breathes in, mindful he breathes out. Breathing in long, he knows, I breathe in long, or breathing out long, he knows, I breathe out long. Breathing in short, he knows, I breathe in short, or breathing out short, he knows, I breathe out short. He trains thus, experiencing the whole body, repeated as at chapter 1. He trains thus, reflecting on letting go, I will breathe in. He trains thus, reflecting on letting go, I will breathe out. It is in this way, monks, that concentration by mindfulness of breathing mindfulness meditation, is developed and cultivated so that it leads to the destruction of the taints.
Okay, thank you, sir. So this particular book is a consolidated version of the teachings of the Buddha around meditation, because out of these 45 volumes of books, it's not necessarily organized any particular way, and his teachings are just kind of spread throughout these 45 volumes. And what we've done in this book series is we've consolidated it, and we've done extracts where you have a consolidated version of the teachings about various topics. And this particular topic of this book is breathing mindfulness meditation. And last week we started studying in this book, and in chapter 1, the Buddha actually gives detailed instructions of how he guides his students in meditation. And I've consolidated that guidance in the way that I've guided you guys this morning in breathing mindfulness meditation. So if you're meditating the way that I taught, this is what's going to lead to your enlightenment, but you need more than just meditation. Here, what the Buddha is describing is that concentration by mindfulness of breathing, which is this breathing mindfulness meditation, when developed and cultivated, leads to the destruction of the taints. The taints are the pollutions or the fetters. The Buddha discovered these 10 individual pollutions in the mind. We refer to them as fetters because during ancient times, if you were a prisoner and they were trying to keep you confined to a certain area, they would attach a fetter around your ankle. What a fetter is a shackle and a chain and a ball, and it would keep you confined to like an open field. This is how they kept prisoners during those time frames, where today we put prisoners in jail cells and things like this. So when the Buddha discovered these individual pollutions in the mind, he refers to them as fetters because it's keeping the mind trapped in this continuous cycle of discontentedness, experiencing anger and sadness and frustration and all these other discontent feelings over and over and over again. So what you're doing on this path to enlightenment is you're training your mind to uproot these pollutions out of the mind, and that's where the mind's going to experience enlightenment. And it's a gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. And as you're gradually reducing these fetters or these pollutions of the mind, you'll gradually start seeing more and more of the qualities of enlightenment shining through. So what the Buddha is making a point here to say is that this meditation that we just did, it's helping you to eliminate these 10 pollutions. And as you're making your way to enlightenment, you learn exactly what these 10 pollutions are. You understand what they are, what the symptoms are, how to eliminate them, and how to know that you've actually eliminated them. And this is where you can confirm for yourself that you actually have these particular fetters. So for example, I'll just give you one. One of them is conceit. What conceit is arrogance and pride, boastfulness, putting yourself above people and putting yourself below people, where you might look at other people and try to determine what's wholesome or what's unwholesome for them, thinking that you know what's right about the world and you know how to do things in the world, and other people are doing things the wrong way, and your way is the right way. And you might judge other people in the way that they look, in the clothes that they wear, in the job that they have, the amount of financial resources they have. You might judge this other person putting yourself above them and looking down on them. Or you might put yourself below people, like a boss or a celebrity or politician, and think you're so below this person. Where this is coming from is all of us have been reborn countless times, and in our animal existences, we needed to have conceit, because conceit is what kept us alive. If it wasn't for conceit, we wouldn't have been able to stay alive. So when we were a pack of wolves, we needed to know who's the alpha male and who's the alpha female, because they're breeding, they're teaching us how to hunt, they're teaching us how to eat. If we didn't know who the alpha male and female were, we wouldn't have been able to learn how to be wolves, and we wouldn't know how to kill, we wouldn't know how to eat. Or when we were a herd of elephants, we needed to know who was above us. We needed to know who's the matriarch of our herd, because she's the one who's showing us where to eat. She's showing us the migration paths. She's showing us the watering holes. If we didn't know who was above us as an elephant, we wouldn't have been able to survive. But when we get reborn into this human world, our mind holds on to this conceit. And now we look for this pecking order. Whenever we go into a social situation, we're looking for this pecking order of who's above us and who's below us. And you can hear from my description of this particular fetter of conceit, you can see that your mind has this particular fetter where you're actually judging other people and maybe looking down at them at certain times, or you're putting yourself below people and feeling like you're less of a person, feeling like you're either superior or inferior to the people around you. So the Buddha's teachings lead to the elimination of all the 10 fetters. This is just one of them that the mind needs to eliminate. So this breathing mindfulness meditation, among other teachings and other training, is going to help you to eliminate these fetters. So this is part of the journey to enlightenment, is what you're doing is you're purifying your mind of these fetters. And as you do, the natural qualities of the mind can shine through more and more and more. You might think about it like the sun, and then there's these clouds in the way. And as you peel away the clouds, the rays of the sun can shine through more and more. It's not like the sun is either on or off, and it's not instantaneous. It's gradual, that you can have the sun there, but when the clouds are in front and the clouds are gradually moving away, the rays of the sun gradually start shining through, just like enlightenment. As you're eliminating these pollutions of the mind, the rays of enlightenment, the radiance, the brightness, the joy, the peacefulness gradually start shining through. Because when you're walking around with all these pollutions in the mind, yeah, you're going to get angry, you're going to get frustrated, you're going to get agitated or annoyed, you're going to have a bad mood, you're going to have difficulties concentrating, you're going to have difficulty sleeping sometimes. At the end of your day, you're going to feel exhausted, you might feel stressed and have anxiety. This is all a result of having these pollutions in the mind. But you don't have to live that way. You can actually choose to train your mind, you can choose to get rid of these pollutions, and you can choose to experience a better way of life. That's what the teachings of the Buddha are. It's helping you to be able to see and understand this better way of life. It's not a religion where there's a bunch of rules and commandments and rituals and ceremonies. It's helping you to understand your mind and human psychology. It's helping you to understand the natural laws around you so that now you can navigate the world more peacefully without those pollutions. You can be awake. What it means to be awake or have this higher consciousness is that you've cultivated wisdom about the natural laws, you've purified your mind, and now you can navigate the world peacefully because the mind is awake. You've moved to this higher consciousness because the mind is no longer polluted. So it's breathing mindfulness meditation, among other things, that's going to help you to be able to accomplish that. And that's what the Buddha is actually saying here. So he's starting to give guidance, which is all found in chapter 1. If you go back to chapter 1, you can see the whole entire text of how he's guiding students how to do meditation. And the way that you can understand his instructions is it's kind of like brushing your teeth. That when you were a child, your parents had to instruct you very closely about how to brush your teeth. It was like, for me, it was like, okay, little David, here's the toothbrush, put it under the water, put the toothpaste on, put it under the water again, rub it back and forth on the top, on the sides, on the inside, clean the roof of your mouth, the tongue, all these kinds of things, spit out the water, rinse your mouth. There were all these instructions that we had. And as a child, we had to pay attention to each one of those individual instructions because we were just learning and we had to figure out the steps. But now, as an adult, we just and we do it. We just brush our teeth. We don't think about all these individual steps. So the Buddha gives all these individual steps as part of his teaching on meditation. So you understand what the mind should be doing during meditation, But then as you learn it, you just do it. You don't have to think about all the individual steps. So if you go back and look at chapter 1, which we studied last week, you'll see a whole host of individual steps that the Buddha is teaching you about how to do meditation. And initially, you pay close attention to those steps and you understand what they are, but then eventually you just do it. And that's what I'm teaching you when I'm guiding you in meditation, is how to just do meditation so you can actually experience the results and the benefits. So do you guys have any questions on this particular chapter where the Buddha is explaining how meditation, this breathing mindfulness meditation, leads to the elimination of pollutions of mind or the taints or the fetters, and this is what purifies the mind and leads to enlightenment. But you need much more than just meditation to make your way to enlightenment. Remember, for those of you guys online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or for those of you guys here, you can use the microphones, and in Zoom you can also electronically raise your hand. No questions? Okay. Let me see if we have anything online here. All right. I don't see anything online, so let's go to the next one. Is there someone who would like to read chapter 12? Rachel? Yeah, go ahead.
Great fruit and benefit of breathing mindfulness meditation. Monks, one thing, when developed and cultivated, is of great fruit and benefit. What one thing? Mindfulness of breathing, breathing mindfulness meditation. And how, monks, is mindfulness of breathing developed and cultivated so that it is of great fruit and benefit? Here, monks, a monk, having gone to the forest, to the foot of a tree, or to an empty hut, sits down, having folded his legs crosswise, straightened his body, and set up mindfulness in front of him. Just mindful, he breathes in, mindful, he breathes out. Breathing in long, he knows, I breathe in long. Or breathing out long, he knows, I breathe out long. Breathing in short, he knows, I breathe in short. Or breathing out short, he knows, I breathe out short. He trains thus, experiencing the whole body. He trains thus, reflecting on letting go, I will breathe in. He trains thus, reflecting on letting go, I will breathe out. It is, monks, when mindfulness of breathing is developed and cultivated in this way, that it is of great fruit and benefit.
All right. Thank you, Rachel. So the Buddha teaches this way, where he has different discourses that explains different angles of things, and he teaches in these different layers. So here, this is a very general, very broad discourse where he's just basically saying, hey, this meditation, it leads to this great fruit and this great benefit. And here's how to actually do that meditation. In the one previous, he was a lot more specific, saying how it leads to the elimination of the pollutions of mind or the taints. So the Buddha would teach in different ways in different situations. So here he's explaining how meditation leads to this certain benefit. And what it leads to is it leads to enlightenment. But you'll see multiple discourses in this particular book where he's explaining the different benefits in each individual discourse. This is where it's important not to look at the Buddha's teachings in isolation, because sometimes you'll see him say a certain discourse and he'll say, here are the 5 benefits of meditation. And he will list those out. But then you'll see another discourse where he'll say, here's the 7 benefits of meditation. And then now there's 7 more benefits. And then you'll see another discourse. He says, here's the 3 benefits of meditation. And you put all this together, you've got like 15 benefits of meditation. So you can't look at the teachings of the Buddha in isolation. You need to look at them in totality and see what he's fully explaining. So here he's just explaining generally and broadly to a particular audience that, hey, this meditation leads to this great benefit. And in the previous one, he would have been maybe in another audience. It could have been 3 years past, or maybe 3 years prior, or who knows when, but these are different audiences that he's talking to and explaining the benefits and the results of meditation. And here he's just helping students to know that there is this benefit of meditation, and then here's how to actually do it. Any questions on this one? Okay, I don't see any questions. So let's go to the next one. Let's see what this one's all about. Let's see. Great fruit and benefit. Okay, this one goes into more detail. So here, this is the one that Rachel just read here, this top section. Now he's going into more detail down here Let me just kind of walk you guys through this. Here, what he's saying is the mind is liberated from the taints. So here he's actually talking about how he actually used meditation in order to get to the point where his mind is liberated. Liberation is freedom from strong feelings, where it's no longer bound up. Because when you get angry and frustrated, like say your mom says something, or your dad or your brother or your sister, and you get frustrated, it's not your brother or your sister, your mom or dad that's causing you to be angry. It's actually your own mind. In that situation, though, your mind is not free because your mind is having craving, desire, attachment. There's longing, yearning. You're wanting and expecting mom or dad to do things a certain way, or you're wanting or expecting your brothers and sisters to do things a certain way. This is the mind craving permanence. So your mind is bound up. But when you get free of the pollutions of mind, now your mind is liberated. And the Buddha is explaining how this meditation is leading to this elimination of the fetters, and he's helping you to understand how it eliminates the taints. But it's not just meditation that you need. And then here he's talking about abandoning memories and intention connected with the household life. Here, during the lifetime of the Buddha, students would actually leave from their household life in order to ordain with him, and they would basically walk away from their home life. And not everybody studied that way. Some people were household practitioners like you guys, where you live in your home and you continue to learn and grow and develop, and you can get to enlightenment too. You don't have to ordain in order to get to enlightenment, but for some people who do ordain and walk away from their household life, their mind is still clinging or still holding on to that. Maybe they're thinking about all the creature comforts of household life. And one of the things that he would teach them is to abandon that and to let that go and to not cling to it. So let's just say with the life of the Buddha, let's just say you're out in the forest and you're sleeping, but now you're dreaming and thinking about this wonderful bed that you had back in your house, and now your mind is discontent, you're frustrated, you're angry because you really want to be in that bed, but yet you're out here in the forest, sleeping in the forest. You might have that experience even when you travel, right? Maybe you have this really comfortable bed at home, but then when you travel and you go to a hotel and the bed's not so comfortable, maybe you're irritated or frustrated or annoyed. This is because you're craving that bed back at your home to be permanent, and it's not permanent. You're going to not be able to sleep in that bed every single day. Sometimes you're going to be sleeping in other beds. But if you crave for that bed at home, now in the present moment, you'll be frustrated, you'll be agitated or annoyed because your mind's longing, yearning for that to be permanent. So here the Buddha is explaining to people to, hey, let go of those memories from the past. When you get to enlightenment, you'll still have memories of your past and what you experienced in the past, but you'll no longer be forming feelings based on it. So the Buddha himself, he was a prince, destined to become a king. He was in the royal family, and then he left away from that and he lived this life of homelessness. If he was sitting there in this life of homelessness, longing, yearning for this life as a member of the royal family, he would be discontent when he's sleeping in his student's house, and maybe it's not as comfortable as it was back in the palace. But his mind let all that go, all those pleasures. He understood that, hey, this is his life now, and he can be very peaceful and joyful in this current life. He doesn't need to form feelings based on things from the past. So maybe you've had things that are very pleasurable in the past, and you no longer have those things. Or maybe you had something very painful in the past, and you are maybe worried or fearful that those things are going to happen again. So this is your mind forming feelings right now in the present moment based on things from the past. And the Buddha is teaching you to let all that go. Your mind doesn't have to hold on to that. If you hold on to those pleasurable things from the past and long and yearn for them, that means in the present moment, you can't be peaceful and you can't be joyful because you have less than what you had before. But also, if you cling to these painful experiences that you've had in the past. Maybe you were physically abused, or maybe sexually abused, or something like this. And maybe your mind is clinging to those experiences. And now in the present moment, you're having painful feelings because of the things that happened in the past. But you can't go back and change those things. So you need to be able to be in the present moment, train your mind to let that go, and realize that you're not going to experience any harm, that you're away from that. And you don't need to base your feelings today off of what happened in the past. So the Buddha teaches this to his ordained practitioners, but you can actually practice this yourself and understand how this would be very helpful for you. So here the Buddha is talking about avoiding both the unrepulsive and the repulsive, residing equanimitous, mindful, and clearly comprehending. Here he's talking about this unrepulsive and repulsive. What the mind does with craving, desire, attachment is that you will see things as either being agreeable to you or disagreeable to you. Or the words that are being used here is unrepulsive and repulsive, right? So if you have a craving for, I don't know, let's just say chocolate ice cream, when you eat chocolate ice cream, wow, you get all these pleasant feelings because you're having agreeable contact, and this is agreeable to you. But now let's just say you hate broccoli. You're repulsed by broccoli. You don't like this particular flavor. So now when you eat broccoli, you're repulsed by it. That's a disagreeable flavor for you, and you push it away. And this is because of the craving in your own mind. This is the desire. This is the longing and the yearning. You can get to a point where you can eat any and all foods, and you'll be able to see it as just something to sustain the health of the body. You won't see it as agreeable or disagreeable or unrepulsive and repulsive, because what the mind does when it has agreeable contact through either the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, or the mind itself, you will get conditioned pleasant feelings. When you see things that you agree with, you'll get happy. Or when you hear things you agree with, you'll get happy. Or you smell a certain odor, like maybe perfume or cologne or flowers, you'll get so happy. And then when you taste a certain flavor, like chocolate ice cream, perhaps, if you like that, then you'll get so happy and excited. And then if you have certain fabrics or certain things touching the body, you'll get happy about that because it's agreeable to you. Or if you have certain things going through your mind, certain thoughts or ideas, if you find it to be agreeable, you'll get so happy, conditioned pleasant feelings. But because of those cravings, desires, attachments, when you're forming those conditioned pleasant feelings, now when you have disagreeable contact through any of these senses, you will experience painful feelings. So if you see something that you disagree with or you find to be repulsive, you will tend to push that away. You will push the situation, or you'll push the person away, or you might be bitter, harsh, and hostile, or you might put your expectations on people and try to control them. Or if you hear something, say you're in a car and you hear this music that you don't particularly care for, and now you get angry and irritable and frustrated because you're at a stoplight and the car next to you is playing this loud music. Well, you might think the person next to you is causing you to be angry or frustrated, but that's not what's causing you to be angry or frustrated. It's your craving of wanting to hear permanently agreeable sounds coming through the ears. And this just isn't possible. As long as you're alive, you live in an impermanent world, and you're not going to be able to hear permanently agreeable things. So as long as you have a craving to only hear certain things, that means you can only be happy when you hear those things. But when you hear something different from that, which you will, because you live in an impermanent world, now you're going to experience anger, frustration, or these other discontent feelings. But you can clean this up out of your mind where you don't have this craving, desire, attachment, and no matter what you hear, or no matter what you smell or taste, or that comes in contact with the body, or anything that goes through the mind, you can maintain your peace and joy because you understand these things are impermanent. That when you're walking down the street and you smell some flowers coming out of the flower shop, instead of getting all excited and so happy about that, because if you allow the mind to do that, now when you walk a couple of more steps and you smell the sewer, you're going to get frustrated or agitated because you're going to see these things as agreeable and disagreeable. But you can just walk down the street and be like, wow, that's a wonderful smell. I can smell that. That smells quite great. But you don't allow your mind to get so happy and excited about it. That's a conditioned feeling. Because now when you walk down the street and you smell the sewer, it's like, I can smell that. Okay, well, let's just keep walking, right? You don't have to be upset or frustrated or agitated about it because it's only an impermanent situation. You can just keep on walking and then you won't smell it anymore. No need to be complaining and upset and frustrated. You can actually train your mind to no longer do that. So the Buddha is talking about how breathing mindfulness meditation has led to that ability to eliminate the cravings, desires, attachments in the mind. Then he's talking about how meditation leads to the first, second, third, and fourth jhana. What this is the preliminary qualities of mind that you experience on your way to the first stage of enlightenment. There's 4 stages of enlightenment that you experience, and as your mind is moving through these stages, your mind is actually enlightened when you get to the 4th stage. But before you get to the first stage of enlightenment, there's these 4 preliminary phases that you experience first. It's called the jhanas. And these are enhanced qualities of mind that you experience as you're training your mind and making your way closer and closer to enlightenment. So the Buddha is explaining how breathing mindfulness meditation is going to lead to those actual jhanas. Here, this is something else that I think it's better not to teach here based on where you guys are in your learning. Same thing with that one. Let's see. This is the Buddha talking about how breathing mindfulness meditation basically leads to the elimination of this anger and hostility, this bitterness and this harshness in the mind. He's talking about how breathing mindfulness meditation helps things to become cool right here, meaning the mind can be calm and peaceful and steady, and you can experience these benefits. Okay, so I just thought I'd walk you guys through that because these are a lot of very diverse teachings. Do you guys have any questions on any of this? You can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand here and ask questions by microphone. No questions? Okay, so this type of learning that we're doing here, this is very different than the way that I typically teach. When I typically teach, it's more of a traditional style of learning. You were here this week where I'm just teaching and teaching and teaching for 15, 20, 30 minutes and then opening up to questions. I teach for 15, 20, 30 minutes, open up for questions. But this particular program, we do this study group where we actually study the original words of the Buddha. It's a very different type of learning. But this is why students oftentimes have a foundation before coming into a class like this. Let's see. What's this one all about? Would someone like to read this one? Yeah, go for it, Drew.
Monks, mindfulness of breathing, when developed and cultivated, is of great fruit and benefit. And how, monks, is mindfulness of breathing developed and cultivated so that it is of great fruit and benefit? Here, monks, a monk develops enlightenment factor of mindfulness accompanied by mindfulness of breathing based upon seclusion, freedom from strong feelings, and elimination, maturing and release. He develops the enlightenment factor of investigation accompanied by mindfulness of breathing based upon seclusion, freedom from strong feelings, and elimination, maturing in release. He develops the enlightenment factor of energy accompanied by mindfulness of breathing based upon seclusion, freedom from strong feelings, and elimination, maturing in release. He develops the enlightenment factor of joy accompanied by mindfulness of breathing based upon seclusion, freedom from strong feelings, and elimination, maturing and release. He develops the enlightenment factor of tranquility, accompanied by mindfulness of breathing based upon seclusion, freedom from strong feelings, and elimination, maturing and release. He develops the enlightenment factor of concentration, accompanied by mindfulness of breathing based upon seclusion, freedom from strong feelings, and elimination, maturing and release. He develops the enlightenment factor of equanimity, accompanied by mindfulness of breathing based upon seclusion, freedom from strong feelings, and elimination, maturing and release. It is in this way, monks, that mindfulness of breathing is developed and cultivated so that it is of great fruit and benefit.
Okay, thank you, sir. So what the Buddha is talking about here is breathing mindfulness meditation leads to the development of the 7 factors of enlightenment. What the 7 factors of enlightenment are, they're tools that you're going to need in order to fine-tune your mind and making your way to enlightenment. The first factor of enlightenment, these aren't to determine whether you are enlightened or not. They're actually a tool to help you fine-tune your mind. The first factor is called mindfulness. This is the same mindfulness that's part of the Eightfold Path. If you are familiar with the core central teaching of the Buddha called the Eightfold Path. We teach about mindfulness there, awareness of mind and the 4 foundations of mindfulness. That's also a factor of enlightenment, meaning you're going to need this in order to get to enlightenment. So you're going to need to have awareness of your mind. But then, depending on if your mind is sluggish and dull and lethargic and complacent, or whether it's overactive or excited, you're going to invoke the various factors of enlightenment in order to move your mind to the middle so that it doesn't dwell in those 2 extremes. So if your mind is sluggish or dull or lethargic or complacent, which you might experience from time to time, there's a solution for that. It's the enlightenment factor of investigation, energy, and joy. What investigation is where you're investigating the teachings of the Buddha. You're reading books, you're coming to the temple, you're attending classes and courses and retreats, you're consulting with a teacher. These are all things that help you to investigate the teachings and examine them. Because when you're complacent and dull and lethargic and sluggish, that's the last thing the mind wants to do. It wants to push all those things away. So you're going to need to apply the effort to bring the mind out of that sluggish condition through investigation of the teachings. As you're investigating the teachings and you're independently verifying them, this is where you will see energy spring up in the mind, where the mind will have enthusiasm and vigor. It'll have motivation and ambition. And now as that's occurring, you will see the joy starting to come into the mind, the unconditioned joy, the gladness of the mind. The mind will be cheerful, bright, and uplifted. So that's going to lift the mind out of that sluggish, dull, lethargic state and bring it to the middle, because the longer you allow it to dwell down there, it's just going to stay wired that way. So you need to lift it up into this middle. But then you're going to have situations where your mind's overactive and excited, you're bouncing off the walls. And in order to train your mind to come to the middle, you're going to need to practice the enlightenment factor of tranquility, concentration, and equanimity. These are the qualities of mind through applying right effort that's going to bring your mind out of that overactive, excited state into the middle, where you don't allow it to keep experiencing these conditioned experiences. And this is where the Buddha talks about maturing and release with each one of these things, that it's breathing mindfulness meditation and practicing these 7 factors of enlightenment that is maturing the mind. It's helping to accumulate the benefits of the training of the mind, where the mind is disciplined. And now eventually, as the mind's maturing, it will release the cravings, desires, attachments that are causing it to be in this sluggish condition or in this overactive, excited condition. But you need to be able to know this particular tool and what each one of these things are. So the tranquility is like the peacefulness and calmness. That's exactly the opposite of the excited, overactive mind. The concentration is the focus and the clarity. This is breathing mindfulness meditation. It's helping you to develop that quality so you can practice it in your day-to-day life. Equanimity is the calmness, the composure, the evenness of temper, especially in difficult situations. Right now, if you got a phone call that your mom was in a terrible car accident and she's being rushed to the hospital in the back of an ambulance, you might find it hard to have equanimity. That's because of your craving for mom to be permanently healthy. It's not because of your love. It's because you're craving for mom to be permanently healthy. And when you hear she's in the back of an ambulance, you might be all thrown off by that because your mind is experiencing this impermanence and it doesn't like it. But you can get to the point where your mind can be calm and composed all the time. You don't have to be shaken up when somebody's experiencing sickness or illness or something like this. This comes through training of the mind. So if you notice that your mind is overactive or excited, you can bring in this tranquility, this peacefulness, this calmness, this focus, this concentration, and this calmness and composure, evenness of temper, this equanimity, and that's what's going to bring the mind to the middle. Because if you allow your mind to live in that overactive, excited state, it's just going to keep firing that way. And now your mind's unsteady, it's unstable, it's all shaken up. And now it's going to be difficult for you to make wise decisions in your day-to-day life. So by bringing the mind to the middle, your mind can have enjoyment, you can have peace, you can have joy, you can have gladness and cheerfulness and brightness, because your mind's not being tugged down into this sluggishness, this dullness, and it's not being tugged into this overactivity where the mind's excited and overactive. And you can maintain your calmness and composure and make wise decisions, and you can enjoy all aspects of life rather than just when you get things the way you want. That's what the unenlightened mind does, is if things are happening the way I want, then I will be happy. But if they're not happening that way, then you'll be frustrated or angry or irritated. So the amount of happiness that you can have in the unenlightened state, it just becomes less and less and less and less as your expectations grow. As you want more and more and more things in the world, your happiness actually shrinks. But you can actually get rid of these expectations and these wants, and you can get to the point where your mind's just always peaceful, always joyful, always happy. But you need to be able to train it with things like meditation and the 7 factors of enlightenment, among other things. So do you guys have any questions on this particular teaching? No questions here? Okay. Let's see. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to end class here with this particular chapter, chapter 14. If you guys would like to learn more, you guys are more than welcome to attend other classes. Like I mentioned, tomorrow I'm going to be teaching the 4 healthy mental states, which is loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. We're going to be starting out at 9 a.m. where I'm going to be starting with meditation. And then we're going to be moving into a talk where I'm going to be teaching in a more traditional method, where I'm actually going to be helping you guys to understand the teachings for 15, 20, 30 minutes. Then I'll open up to questions and then teach for another 15, 20, 30 minutes. And these healthy mental states, this is where the Buddha actually gets the reputation of being like a doctor, because there's certain symptoms that you experience that these mental states are the prescription for. And the Buddha is very wise to be able to know what those symptoms are and then prescribe the solution. But you can actually be your own best doctor. It doesn't have to be only the Buddha who is considered to be a doctor. You can actually be a doctor yourself, where you observe the aspects of your mind, and then you have the tools to bring in and address those particular symptoms at any given time. So by you learning the 4 healthy mental states, you'll be able to understand what are the symptoms that these 4 healthy mental states are remedying. And then at whatever point in time you see those symptoms, you can bring in the prescription and you can actually resolve what's going on within your own mind. So we have that coming up tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, I'm going to be teaching meditation, or at least doing meditation with students. We'll be doing breathing mindfulness meditation. And then what I typically do on Wednesday is I just open up to any and all questions that you guys might have related to the teachings of the Buddha, rather than doing any kind of teaching unless somebody requests something. So whatever you choose to do today, feel free to have a wonderful and lovely rest of your day. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being interested in learning the teachings of the Buddha. Have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day. Take care. Sawadee Kap, Sawadee Kap, Sawadee Kap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.